There's a misconception that some people are naturally giving and some others are naturally selfish. But that's not true.
This is 10 Lessons for Givers.
By the time I reached adulthood, I thought my biggest problem was I cared too much, that I was a giver and that I was too generous. But what I didn't realize yet at that time was that my giving didn't come from abundance. It didn't come from confidence. It didn't come from healthy love. My giving came from fear. Fear of conflict, fear of disappointment, fear of being abandoned, fear of being too much, fear of being unloved unless I earned it. And when giving comes from fear, it becomes self-abandonment. And self-abandonment attracts takers like a magnet. So today, I want to help you understand why and how to break the cycle for good. Givers are trained. They are shaped in childhood. They grow up in homes where they learned your feelings come second, your needs are an inconvenience, your job is to keep the peace, your value comes from helping. Saying no makes you ungrateful. Self-sacrifice is love. And so they became the emotional caretaker, the peacekeeper, the fixer, the healer, the one who holds everything together. And because they were never allowed to take up space, they don't know how to receive love, only how to give it. Takers aren't born either. They are encouraged.
Most of us are not purely givers or purely takers. Most humans have both capacities, but under stress, intimacy, or power imbalance, we tend to lean towards the role that once kept us safe. And over time, the role we repeat most often becomes our identity. Just like givers are conditioned in childhood, takers are also shaped, not born.
Takers are formed in childhood patterns. Often, they grow up learning, you deserve more, your needs matter the most, other people are there to serve you. If you complain, someone will fix it.
If something feels uncomfortable, other people will step in.
Love equals being catered to.
Many takers were surrounded by people who overfunctioned for them, doing things for them that would have been essential for their emotional maturity if they learned to do it themselves.
Or in narcissistic families, the golden child learns, I'm special, I am entitled, other people exist to support me. So in adulthood, they expect things. They take without guilt. They feel entitled to your time, attention, and energy. They exploit empathy without even realizing it.
And they rarely feel grateful, not because they're cruel, but because they feel owed.
This is why givers are drawn to takers. Your overfunctioning matches their underfunctioning. Your people-pleasing matches their entitlement. Your guilt matches their demand. Your silence matches their dominance. The relationship fits.
Not because it's healthy.
Because the dysfunction fits like puzzle pieces.
And if you recognize yourself in either role, this isn't about shame. It's about awareness. Because once you can see the pattern clearly, you can finally choose something different.
When a giver meets a taker, this is what happens. First, the giver gives and the taker receives happily, and then the giver gives more because giving feels like safety, and the taker takes more because it reinforces their worldview. The giver becomes emotionally drained, and then the taker becomes irritated or resentful when the giver finally has needs. Then the giver feels guilty for asking for anything, and the taker sees the boundary as an attack. And finally, the giver eventually snaps or disappears. So the cycle repeats with someone new. And the saddest part? The giver thinks that they have failed the relationship, while the taker thinks that the giver has changed. But in reality, it was never a relationship. It was an emotional contract, written long before either person met. When you give too much, you teach people to value your absence instead of your presence. Your giving becomes expected. Your kindness becomes background noise. Your generosity becomes invisible. People only notice when you stop. This doesn't mean you should give less love. This means you should give love from a healthy self, not from a wounded one. Because wounded giving has a hidden hope. Maybe if I give enough, they will finally love me, finally treat me well, finally see me, finally choose me. But healthy giving says, I share because I want to, not because I fear losing you. I say no and still feel worthy. I set boundaries and still feel safe. My giving doesn't erase my needs. Takers do not appreciate your giving because it's effortless for them to receive. They aren't doing anything to earn it. For a taker, receiving isn't a moment for gratitude. It's a natural state. They're used to other people stepping in, fixing things, offering support, and making their life easier. Because they never had to work for emotional nourishment, they don't recognize the weight of what you are giving. To them, receiving feels as natural as breathing. So they don't pause to appreciate the oxygen. They normalize your sacrifices. The human brain discounts what is freely given. Over time, your giving becomes invisible. Your sacrifices blend into the background because they're constant and dependable for you. And our brains places less value on things that come too easily. This isn't personal, it's psychological. When something becomes predictable and unearned, the mind stops seeing it as special, even if it costs you everything. They see your overgiving as your role and not as your choice. Takers mistake your self-sacrifice for your identity. They assume you enjoy giving this much and that it's simply who you are. They don't understand that your giving comes from childhood conditioning, survival instincts, or fear of conflict. In their eyes, you're not offering, you are performing your duty. And because they see it as your role, they don't imagine you could ever stop. Your abandonment signals low self-worth. People treat you at the level you treat yourself. When you consistently put yourself last, the world assumes you belong there. People mirror what you model. If you communicate through your actions that your needs are negotiable, your boundaries are flexible, and your comfort doesn't matter, others will treat you accordingly. Not because they're evil, but humans naturally follow the emotional blueprint we show them. So self-neglect becomes an invitation for others to neglect you too. They believe you're giving because you want to, not because you're afraid not to. So they don't sense the cost you are paying internally. Takers don't see the inner war happening inside of you. The guilt, the fear, the anxiety, the emotional exhaustion behind every yes. They assume your giving is easy, light, effortless, and joyful. They cannot sense the emotional pain, the depletion, the nights you cry from overwhelm because you hide it so well. You smile while you're drowning. And unfortunately, they believe the smile. Takers value what's scarce, not what is abundant. They value the person who withholds, not the person who overgives. This is the hardest truth. Takers interpret scarcity as value. They chase the person who gives little because they feel like it's something to win, something to conquer, something to earn. But your abundance, your warmth, your emotional generosity, your effort feels too easy, too safe, too available. So they don't treasure it. Not because your love isn't extraordinary, but because they only understand love through struggle, scarcity, not genuine connection. Growing up, I was conditioned, not just encouraged, to be a giver, to offer what I had without hesitation. And if I didn't, that meant I was a bad person or selfish. I offered my time, my energy, effort, emotions, attention, and care. Giving was my identity. Giving was my obligation. Giving was how I stayed safe. And because of that, I honestly couldn't see when people were taking advantage of me. I honestly thought it was normal, expected, even virtuous. But here's the strange thing. While I couldn't see how I was being used, I could always see it clearly when another giver was being taken advantage of. And it made me furious. There was something inside me, something primitive and intuitive, that hated takers. Not the people themselves, but the psychology of taking, the entitlement, the carelessness, the emotional greed. It always felt toxic, wrong, and dangerous. Like my inner compass was trying to warn me. These are sharks. They don't love your kindness. They feed on it. And maybe that's why I'm making this video. Because I want other givers, people like you, people like me, to finally understand why we are exhausted. To question where your giving comes from. To notice when we are cheapening our own generosity by giving too often, too quickly, too deeply. And most importantly, to recognize that we are swimming in waters full of takers disguised as friends, family, lovers, or partners. You deserve to feel safe, not hunted. Every giver reaches a moment where something shifts, a moment where exhaustion turns into clarity, a moment where you quietly whisper, I can't live like this anymore, because it's the moment you stop asking, what is wrong with me? And begin asking, what happened to me? It's the moment your inner compass starts speaking again. The moment you begin choosing yourself, even in small ways, such as saying no without a 5-minute apology, or letting someone to be disappointed, giving when only your heart genuinely wants to, walking away from people who drain you, understanding that your worth is not tied to your usefulness, and realizing that love isn't earned, it's shared. This is not selfish. This is sacred. This is adulthood. It's healing. It's rebirthing. So there is a simple formula to end this dynamic if you are a giver and with a taker. But simple doesn't mean easy. So step 1, you want to build internal safety. Tell your nervous system, I'm allowed to have needs. I'm allowed to set boundaries. I am allowed to say no. Step 2, pause before giving and ask yourself, am I giving from fear, obligation, or guilt, or out of genuine desire? Step 3, watch how people respond to your boundaries. Healthy people adjust, takers get offended. This will tell you everything. Step 4, give less automatically. Not to be stingy, but to be conscious. Your giving should be a gift, not a survival strategy. Step 5, surround yourself with balanced people. Givers thrive with other givers, balanced people, and emotionally mature people. These relationships feel peaceful, almost shockingly peaceful if you're used to chaos. Step 6, relearn your worth. Your worth is not in how much you give, how much you endure, how much you can fix, how small you can make yourself. Your worth is in your presence, your heart, your truth. Step 7, become unavailable to takers. Not through anger, not through revenge, but through clarity. Once you truly see takers for what they are, you stop trying to change them and start choosing people who choose you. And I just want to leave you with this. You were never meant to be a container for other people's chaos. You were never meant to shrink yourself in order to be loved. You were never meant to earn affection through self-sacrifice. You were never meant to be the emotional parent to emotionally immature people. You were meant to be whole. You were meant to be loved without conditions. You were meant to have peace. You were meant to trust your intuition. You were meant to shine without apology. And now you're finally remembering that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for choosing healing, and thank you for choosing yourself. Your story doesn't end in self-abandonment. I'll see you in the next video. And wherever you go from here, may it be a path that honors your heart.
This is 10 Lessons for Givers.